Shalom friends, Aaron here. I'm going to give you a little update and then talk to you about something that was on my mind. So we're getting to the end of July. Gotten a lot done. Have a lot more to do. It's a lot of work. I shared a story about Jason Upton and his Uber driver while he was down here for an event. His Uber driver named August. And I was thinking today, as I was dealing with some ceiling problems, which I'll get into, we're just going to take our time. And I think it's a funny story. And that video is maybe worth watching. It's might be the last one that I posted. But the update here is just that in the hallway, all my drywall is done. Walls are all primed. Ceiling is painted. Which is very exciting. And I had a lot to do in here. There's a lot of drywall work in here. And drywall work's a pain in the butt. Not my favorite thing to do. I do pretty good drywall work. I'm probably not the fastest. Definitely not the fastest. And I don't like it. But this door is for a closet that used to be all the way down there where that opening is. And down here at the base of this wall where this door is, that would have been my return air from my furnace. No, it's a closet. The floor is concrete. I had to add about 1.5 inches of concrete to that because that was not finished concrete. It was the rough pour on the house. This is a slab home, no basement, and they put pilings into the ground. They hammer these big pilings in with a big pile driving machine, and then they build footers on top of those for a concrete pour like this, and then they form it all up, and then they pour concrete, and the concrete essentially sits on top of those pilings, which are down 30 feet. I'm thinking 40 feet into the ground, down into the clay. It's kind of the idea, so that your house doesn't settle. So what they did in here is they did this rough pour, and it had a 1/2 inch thick, deep grooves troweled into it, and then on top of that they put where they're going to put their walls. They would put down their wood form for the wall. Not the wood form, but like the sill plate, basically, wherever the interior walls were going to be. And then they did 1.5 inch finished pour of concrete, which is smoother, and wherever they were going to have like carpeting or any other kind of flooring. And then where they didn't, we have this terrazzo floor down here. And terrazzo, basically, it's either a mortar base or epoxy base, kind of like a cement, and it's got little chips of stone in it. Kind of a neat look. This is really worn. It's got some cracks and chips in it. And there's really nobody who fixes that anymore. We're just going to tile over it. It's a dated look. It's cool, but it's dated, so I'm going to tile that. But anyway, in here, we didn't have any terrazzo and we didn't have any finished concrete. And this was my cold air return. This was where the air was getting sucked up into the ductwork that was all up here in the ceiling. Now this was my ceiling height, 7 feet, and now it's 8 feet. We took all the ducts out. Could not keep the ducts clean. They sealed the finished concrete wherever they did finished concrete, and then the terrazzo is pretty much, it's almost impervious to water, really. Like, water just doesn't go through the terrazzo because it's an epoxy, or even the mortar-based stuff. It's so dense, so tightly packed. And even the mortar-based stuff, I'm pretty sure that it's there's a chemical reaction that takes place when they mix all that stuff up, sort of like an epoxy, and it keeps the water out. But in here, this floor was not sealed because it was just the rough pour. And so not only was it full of dirt, these 1/2 inch grooves were full of like 60-year-old drywall mud, all kinds of other dirt that you couldn't really clean out of it. It also hadn't been sealed, so it was just sucking moisture right up through the ground and sucking that all up into the ducts with the dirt. But anyway, so the furnace was in here and ripped all it out, and got a light in the closet. Oh, look at that, we got a light, yay. And painted ceiling drywall in there. So I can paint this And the door needs to get painted. And I did mention before that this hallway had paneling that looked like these doors, same sort of dark color. And then a 7-foot high ceiling. And so it was really like a cave in here. And so now we've got 8-foot ceilings. We've got painted drywall everywhere. This will be a light color, kind of like a gray. Anyway, a little darker than this, but the ceiling's painted, that's nice. And there was no lighting up in the ceiling. There was no place to put lighting because the ducts were there, and then the ceiling was so low. So there was just here one wall sconce with these little candelabra lights, the little tiny little 40-watt lights, and then around the corner there was another one, and it was never bright in here. So that's all done. Oh, well. And then this closet was here. That closet wasn't. This closet was. And while I had the ceiling open, I was able to fish lights in and fish wires in and put a light in the ceiling and paint that ceiling. We'd never actually painted this closet, so this closet will get painted. And I'm just going to get wire shelves. There was plywood shelves everywhere and like galvanized pipes to hang hangers and stuff like that. So really bulky and ugly. So we're going to get wire shelving and put it in there. I've already showed you the bathroom. Look at our door. Canvas drop cloth. The boys and I don't mind. I still have to paint the sliding pocket door that goes in there. Anyway, there's the bathroom. I don't know if I showed it to you done. I still have to paint the mirror. The walls have been painted. This is the wrong color. They actually mixed the wrong color for me. But it needed 2 coats anyway, so I got the right paint mixed and it's close enough to this that it'll look good. But the sink is done. The drain's hooked up. I'll put a post on the Facebook page. The drain was a big pain in the butt. And the reason for that is because there was a cabinet there and the drain is not centered. And the shutoffs are too close to the drain if you want to do what I did, and that's put in a pedestal sink. And that's why you have to really plan the rough plumbing for what you're going to do for finish. I had to really, it was hard. There was not a lot of work. There's not a lot of room down there to get the drain hooked up. But I just was able to make it work because there really needs to be a pedestal sink in here. The cabinet went into the doorway and where the trim was cut around it. But we have a working sink. That's exciting. And over here we have a nice toilet that's not pink and actually flushes. That's pretty exciting. And all the tile work is done and everything like that. So I'm pretty happy with it. Tiled all the way down, no baseboard, no wood anywhere. So not places for water to make a nasty mess in here. Whoop, made it dark. So other than that, into the living room. I've done some other things. We ripped out, I'd say half the carpeting upstairs, had a ton of cleaning to do. Started doing some drywall work upstairs in the bedrooms. Started painting the floor up there. It's plywood subfloor, so it's smooth. It's not like what you'd see today, which is like an OSB. It's like press board. So it's actually not bad to walk on. We're going to live with that and not put carpet in, and I'm painting it like a gray that kind of complements the walls just so it doesn't look bad when people come to see it. The reason for that is we know that carpeting, new carpeting, has chemicals in it. Mostly it's the flame retardant that's in it. It's cancer causing. And when it's new, it's really still giving off all those chemicals, and we don't want to expose our kids to that. Somebody else can do that. That's up to them. Plus, kids make stains in carpets, and I wouldn't put in a dark carpet up there. And I think that somebody wanting to buy the house, I think that they would appreciate knowing that the carpet's ripped out, the floor is super clean and painted and sealed, and then they can pick their own carpet. Because carpet installation is cheap. Carpet installers don't normally do a really good job of cleaning. So to know that you have a perfectly clean floor to begin with before your carpet goes in, I think that's a good idea. And then we don't have to worry about the kids ruining the carpet after we spend money on it. So walking into the living room, spin around, come down the hallway. That's the living room opening now. It's about 41 inches wide after the trim goes up. You look down the hallway there. The opening was down there, and it looked across at the stairs, and it was 6 feet wide. And it literally just stared at the stairwell, which was just stupid. So that's done. And It's a little dark down here, but also put a receptacle in down there. There was no receptacle in the hallway. The doorway started right about here. Went 6 feet that way, and you can see, just look right at the stairs. I like the stairs with no railing. Unfortunately, you can't do that. I don't like the railing. It's kind of a yellow, ugly paint, so painting it black is going to make it look a lot better. Also, there's a center support that goes right there that broke, so I got to get that welded, and then we'll put that back up. But I had to take it down because I got to put another coat of finish on these stairs and had to work on some drywall up there. But our door still needs to be painted. That light I put up 8 years ago, it's still a nice light. We're going to leave it up there. And the ceiling looks real nice. Recessed lighting. There was the wall sconce there-ish. So now we come down the hallway. We'll go back this way. Come in from the front door. Walk down the hallway. My hand is in the way. And there was a doorway over there on this side. And you come around here to this opening. That's the living room, family room. Here where this lovely door is. That was for the drywall dust. I could actually take that down. That's for the kitchen. We'll take it down. And now you walk in here. There had been a wall right where I'm standing. You can't see it very well anymore, but there was some concrete repair that I did here. There was a tiny little closet right here. And then right pretty much where those lights were, there was a wall. You can see that light spot on the floor. That's where the wall was where the baseboard's missing. So it wasn't a load-bearing wall. And I was able to make that drywall across that back wall flush, make the ceiling flush, and just open it up and make it one room, which is pretty cool. So when you walk into this room, that's the kitchen. When you walk into this room, there's a light switch right here that operates these lovely, there they are, dimmable LED recessed lights. So that's pretty cool. Obviously there was a wall there, there wasn't a light there. And then, that's exciting. I had a lot of work to do to get this ceiling looking good so that I could put up the fan lights. Now that's what was originally the formal dining room. It's 10 feet wide, and it was originally about 16 feet. 10 by 16 is what it was. And you rip the wall out. And then here's the other light switch for those. We did this so that the light switch over there, right when you're walking in, you flip that on and you get the lights that are right down the middle of the room, the recessed lights. And then you can turn this other switch on and get your fan lights. Now, this is what was the living room. There was no light there. But because I had the hallway open and was getting into all this wiring that was a mess, I was able to fish a wire up here, figure out how all this wiring went together, and get it wired together with the light that's over there in the dining room, and put a new switch in so the two lights are controlled by this. Now those have a remote control, just around here somewhere, so that you can operate it, fan or light. So I put them together so we can just turn them off and turn them on and adjust the speed on the fans with the same remote. But it could be separate if they wanted it to be. They're actually pretty cool fans. Yeah, I'm gonna shut the light on. Yeah, they're pretty cool fans. They got an integrated LED. They're very bright. They're about 1,200 lumens maybe. So they're brighter than they need to be. They're actually pretty neat because they have, the blades are attached to what they call a flywheel. And it's really made so that you can't, this dirt can't get in it really. So it's pretty nice. A little more money than I wanted to spend on fans. But my thought is I could maybe save $140 on these two fans. But I think it's something people notice. I'm trying to sell the house. So I feel like it was worth it to spend the money there. Anyway, there's the living room. Next thing I got to do in here is replace, that's a bay window. I got to replace those windows. 3 windows, obviously. And then I got 2 windows over there that I need to replace. And then, well, we'll do that, paint the walls, tile the floor. So that's what's up next. But to get to this point where I could actually put these lovely ceiling fans up, I had to deal with some drywall problems, and that's what I wanted to share. I had primed everything that needed to be primed. I wasn't really thinking about the fact that it had been 8 years since the ceiling had been painted. We moved into the house 8 or 9 years ago. The ceiling had been painted then, 3 coats, because it hadn't been painted in a long time and it was kind of yellow. Gosh, I don't know, I would guess maybe 15 or 20 years, 20 years, maybe more than 20 years. I don't know how long ago they painted the ceiling before we came in and did it. But I don't think that I primed anything on the ceilings. No, I didn't. Anyway, 1 coat of ceiling paint wasn't enough. Needed 2. There's a possibility it was going to need 3, but worked out with 2. But I had some water stains coming through. Right above where I'm sitting right now is our shower drain for the master. And that leaked years ago and left a really big water stain. It ran all the way down halfway through the room and got to the light and then leaked out the light. Now, I covered that with a couple of coats of a spray-on water stain blocker. And it worked really well. You couldn't see it. And then where the opening is over there, just outside in that hallway, is where the furnace unit currently is upstairs with the condensation coils and the fan blower unit for the furnace air conditioning upstairs. And that had overflowed, and the condensate pump, when it stopped working, it didn't have a proper float shut off, and so it just leaked all into the hallway. Now, I ripped all that hallway ceiling out that I know had been water stained. Now I had primed over it, painted over it. You couldn't really see it anymore. And then some of that water had gone down the wall between the hallway and the living room. That wall all got ripped out. So there wasn't anything left that I knew of. Now in the living room, on the living room side, this white ceiling looked white. Didn't see any stain whatsoever. When I came through and put the first coat of ceiling paint on this yesterday, having dealt with any dark spots, stains, anything like that before I started painting, looked at it in the morning, and where I'm up above me here, where the shower had leaked, there were places where that stain was leaking through. Just seeping right through, even through a couple layers of stain blocking primer. I mean, really more like, I would say, 3 or 4 layers of stain blocking primer. Really good stain blocking primer. But it's this other side that really kind of caught my attention, and I'll come back to it in a minute. I was having a conversation today as I was dealing with the ceiling, thinking how I'd really like to be done with it. But going back to another video that I did, telling a story about Jason Upton and his, did I already tell this part? Jason Upton and his Uber driver, August, telling him we're going to take our time when he was late. I can't remember. You can go back and check out that video. But I was really kind of feeling like, man, I wish I could just be done with the ceiling so I could go get the ceiling fans up and paint the walls and work on the tile. And I just thought, well, dealing with these stains takes time, and I'm just going to take my time. So I also had a conversation today with somebody who was talking about interactions they're having with somebody lately that they're just not nice. They're doing their best to be kind to this person, loving to this person, and what they get in return is just smiles, and biting jokes that the person seems to believe it's okay because they're smiling and making a joke out of it, even though they're saying ugly things. And we really just kind of came to the conclusion that this person they're dealing with has some ugliness in their heart toward them. that they've never dealt with, that they've painted over, and it just keeps seeping through. In every interaction, unless it's a couple minutes long, if it's deeper, longer interaction, something ugly comes out. And why is that? Well, this other spot that I had to deal with, when originally we had the leak from the air conditioning upstairs, and I took care of the stain in the hallway, there was no stain that showed through in the living room. Now, paint seals, even a flat ceiling paint, it seals to some degree. And what seems to me what happened was the water seeped, ran over the wall and got into the ceiling in the living room, just a little bit of it, and it leaked through, but not enough to get through that paint layer. And it kind of made me think about how thick is a layer of paint. Well, maybe 1/1000th of an inch. And so between primer, a couple layers of paint, we're talking about maybe 4/1000ths of an inch is what was between the stain and me being able to see it. But the thing about the water stain is it started way up above there. Now we're only talking about a 1/2 inch thick, but it stained through the paper that's on the rough side, all the way through the gypsum board, stained through the finished paper, stained through the drywall mud, and stopped before it came through the paint. It was right there. Couldn't see it. The water just didn't penetrate that paint. But as soon as I put paint on from this side, the moisture in the paint that I applied to the finished side pulled that stain through. And to get that to go away, I just tried putting a stain blocking primer on it again, but now that it come through, it just leaked through the stain blocking primer. Not all the way, but a little bit. So I got an industrial gray primer, sprayed that there, sprayed that on the other spot, let that dry, had to go over the gray with 2 coats of stain blocking white primer, and then basically prime it again with the ceiling paint a couple of times to cover that, so that then when I painted the ceiling with the second coat, the whole ceiling, it actually covered and all looked the same. So there's a lot of work, a lot of time to cover those stained areas. But what really struck me was this area where I couldn't see the stain. The stain had always been there, but I couldn't see it because it was whitewashed. There was this tiny little 4/1000th of an inch layer of paint between my being able to see it. But the stain was there all the way through. And it just made me think about when we have bitterness, anger, past hurts that we've not dealt with in our hearts. If we interact with those people that we have those issues with, we can paint over our heart as many times as we want to, but that stain is deep and it's persistent and it'll just keep leaking through. And we can put on a happy face and we can smile and we can make jokes and we can pretend all we want to that things are fine, but people know better. They see it. I can pretend that stain wasn't up there and just cover it over with a whole bunch of layers of white paint. But there'd be a little bit of brown up there. And somebody paying just a little bit of attention when I go to sell this house is going to see that brown stain and wonder what it is. So the thing is, even if we just want to cover it, painting over it doesn't do the job. It needs to be dealt with properly. But it's still there. And if we want it gone, the only way to get rid of it is to remove that drywall and get new. So I just want to say that I sort of ended today when I was thinking about that, not just focused on the conversation I had with somebody today about another person they're dealing with whose water-stained heart, stains bleeding through their paint, their whitewashed smiley face, their "oh, it's just a joke" kind of stuff. And I thought, Scripture tells us that we need to examine our own hearts. And I found myself really thinking about myself. What's in my heart that I need to deal with? And it's a subject for another time. And I think I'll make a post about this on the Facebook page, maybe get into a little bit more detail. And also talk about forgiveness, which is something that's been on my mind, something that's been on my heart lately. What does it mean for us to forgive? And it's not just, we can talk about forgiveness while we forgive, you know. How many times do I forgive my brother, Peter says, and I wonder if he's talking about his brother Andrew. How many times do I forgive my brother? 7 times? And Jesus said, no, 70 times 7. But what does it mean to forgive? And how is forgiveness completed? Is forgiveness unconditional? And if not, what are the conditions? Some thoughts that have been in my mind. And I hope it starts a discussion. But we need to examine our own hearts. Now we need to also, as we examine our own hearts, let the Most High God, through the work of the Holy Spirit, examine our hearts also. And God, when we're His, doesn't force Himself on us in terms of making us allow Him access to our hearts. He can see there what's in our heart. But in terms of letting Him deal with our water stains, He's looking for permission. He's wanting us to surrender ourselves to that work. He doesn't just force Himself in to do that work without our permission to do it. And so we have to examine our own hearts and then let God examine our hearts. And we have to be honest and let Him tell us what we have that needs to be dealt with. And then let Him tell us how we need to deal with it, if there's something we need to do to deal with it properly. Not just putting coat after coat after coat after coat of paint on it, trying to make it look white again. How do we deal with it for real? So, those are things that are on my mind. But that's our update. We're moving along. I'm hopeful that in the very near future, I'll have the hallway, living room, family room, bathroom, half bath down here, done. That way we can empty the kitchen and the dining room into this space and start tearing that up. Have all of the carpet out upstairs, have all the floors painted, have the drywall work done in the rooms that I'm not changing walls. Have some windows in. And hopefully get a bathroom. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? Anyway, I'm going to go for now. May God's peace and blessing rest on you. And I say shalom. I mean that. Peace to you in every way. Until next time.